Hey world, it's April 21st, 2022 at 10:22. So there's a lot of twos there. At the forefront of my mind is I happened to absorb the new Batman last night, and it was really something. Obviously, as you would expect, as a continuation of the Joker a couple of years ago, Warner Brothers has had this just incredible um, piece that's a part of their library that they've just adapted to the times. And as I was watching it, it was incredible aesthetically how it connected really pretty much my entire lifetime, right? Because there was a lot of aspects of it that felt very 70s to me, all the way to now because of the technology. But the one continuum was corruption. And it's all the same characters, and Gotham is Gotham. And the whole point of Batman or the Batman and the new version of Pattinson is playing Batman, and I thought he did a spectacular job. But what I thought was important about maybe mentioning that to you this morning, in context to everything that I've been trying to unlock your mind to understand, is that that's a fictional depiction, the Batman, of how our society works. And it literally, I mean, it slammed you over the head with these metaphors that were just amazing in terms of how to fight against corruption and actually recognizing corruption as it is. And it was remarkable in a fictional situation. But what the con is, and who I am in this whole context, is that I'm revealing to you the largest criminal conspiracy and cover up in history that never ended. Now, the con isn't one piece of it, okay? The con is the story. Now, if you think about it in terms of the 2008 great financial crisis and the housing collapse, you can automatically assume that it's one piece of it. But it's not. It's how the system operates, okay? And the system has literally been a continuum going back decades. I mean, this is what we call neoliberalism, based on a global stage where financialization has removed the golden goose as the actual generator of what we think of as our economy. But it requires literally a lot of complicity by politicians that have been there for decades. That if you watch the Batman, I mean, I think between the police chief and the mayor that's running, I mean, they all pretty much have thumbprints or fingerprints of what it is that I'm trying to tell you. And it's pretty insane if I just connect these names at the moment, right? So I want you to think about Clarence Thomas, Supreme Court Justice, Jenny Thomas, his wife, the Koch brothers, the Mercer Foundation, of course, Jerome Powell, the Federal Reserve, Robert Kaplan, the Federal Reserve, and then consider Putin and Trump and money laundering and the entire financial apparatus, including Chase Bank, and then, of course, consider MBS, who's kind of at the center point of all of this stuff, MBS being the crown prince of Saudi Arabia, who is, of course, going to be king and basically has literally BlackRock and Larry Fink and Chase, Jamie Dimon and Goldman Sachs, and the rest of the major financial players, basically sitting court and kissing the ring while he determines which direction to go in the context of 9/11 and everything that's happened since. And of course, the only thing fueling Russia's ability to manufacture war against Ukraine is oil. So nothing has changed over 20 years, okay? The only difference is the speed, the size, and the scope of how the criminal apparatus can literally steal trillions of dollars from different countries around the world and launder into our financial system that the Federal Reserve fuels and our financial system launders. And those entities are at the apex of a situation that basically controls the United States government. So a lot of you folks are into, conspiracies and like the shadow. And, you like to jump to places like the Rothschilds and some dark, evil cabal behind the scenes pulling the levers. What I'm telling you is they're not behind the scenes. They're in your face. And they're the names that I just mentioned and so many more. And so many more includes mostly our entire government. And what I'm trying to tell you is you can't escape corruption in any direction. And they're stealing, they're literally looting from the central bank based on the stuff that we lay out in the con to be able to maintain this insane geopolitics and this global structure, what they call globalism, in a way that basically has destroyed the golden goose of the United States. And it's been able to do so again, and I love to hit this point over and over and over because it drives me absolutely insane to consider the betrayal of this. The betrayal is that the United States became the world's global currency because we prevailed over fascism. Okay? Did we do it alone? No, we did it with the United Kingdom. We also did it as the Herculean effort of the Russians, who, of course, under Stalin and communism, were just as brutal in many ways as, quite frankly, the Nazis. And they went the distance with the Nazis. And I encourage all of you, particularly who think of white supremacy as something that, is untouchable and you've got your version and you can rule the world and all that kind of crap. The Russians destroyed the Nazis. I encourage you to learn about the raid on Berlin at the end of World War II and see what happens when stuff goes awry and you get over your skis, or what I'm trying to say is when you get extended. I mean, that's what the Nazis did. They got super extended and then they got their ass handed to them. But ultimately, the United States got to the nuclear secrets first, and that was created through the Manhattan Project. And I'm telling you right now, what we have to do is we've got to create a Manhattan-like project to purge corruption from the global situation. It's that insane. Nothing has changed for 20 plus years. We've got a fossil fuel hierarchy based on the financialization through futures, derivatives, and all of this trading that undergirds this global freaking corruption. And again, it's not a cabal that you can't see. It's right in front of our eyes. You just don't know how it operates, which again is why you have to see the con. If you see the con, you become educated. You become aware of how the black box casino operates and ultimately how our central bank fuels it. So what we discovered in the con is ultimately this entire criminal racket, which may have well been Penguin or the other character in Batman, if you happen to watch it, which was insane. These fictional depictions, but the real deal is so much more insidious because it incorporates literally people that we trust. People that are in pinstripe suits, that come out of the Ivy League, that rise to the highest levels, that are on the covers of like Fortune magazine and Forbes. And we think that these guys are like, bootstrappers that picked themselves up and found success because they were better than everybody else. What they were is monopolists, okay? That overran our government's ability to rein in corruption. And so we've got two choices in these impending elections that are now being characterized by, literally identity politics. My friends, it's not identity politics. That's not to say that people don't have value, valid reasons for being, incredibly, committed to whatever it is that's important to them, which is important to us all. But I want liberty and justice for all based on the equality of law. Okay, and you can't have that without corruption. And for those of you who kind of, fuse left, you want to, champion Bernie and Elizabeth Warren and that sort of thing, I can tell you firsthand, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders have been talking about corruption and billionaires for now, over a decade. And they do it in platitudes. You know what platitudes means? They're vague. They don't want to bring you the details of the corruption for whatever reason. I can only speculate as to what that reason is, but I can tell you, you can't defeat corruption by playing on the terms of corruption. Now, going back to my theme yesterday, look, if we find a woman who got into a car accident, who's pinned under the car with her child, and you're the only one who arrives on the scene, chances are you're not going to be able to lift up that car. But you can pick up your phone, you can call 911, or you can recruit people to come help you. And if you got 10, 20, 30, maybe 100 people, could you move the car? Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do to you. But you got to wrap your mind around the corruption first. www.thecon.tv. That gives you the understanding of how the system works. And then I really, really, really plead with you to go to my YouTube page at Patrick Lovell Truth Bombs the Con, like and subscribe, even if you don't watch anything. Because we've got to get the word out that there's a growing movement to purge corruption. We've got the facts. I've got the access to the people who could actually, turn this whole thing inside out, upside down. And if you watch the con, you would understand what I'm talking about. But I'll just give you a quick overview. It's guys that were former senior guys at the Department of Justice, senior guys at the FBI, senior guys at the Securities and Exchange Commission, and then AGs from around the country. These are professionals equipped to do their job, but there's not critical mass because the corruption has purged it so bad, or has overwhelmed the system so bad based on the system that I've laid out here. And the media is either too stupid, gullible, or they carve out just tiny fractions of telling you the story in a way that makes you think that they're actually getting there, but yet they're playing on your sort of sensibilities, and I guess those things that are important to you. It's almost like an emotional, psychological bent. But again, they're not going to the actual evidence of the facts of the case that reveals the largest criminal conspiracy and cover-up in the history of the world that never ended. And what I'm trying to tell you is this whole thing came to a climax in 2009 that pivoted to the system that we've been living under ever since. It's Gotham, all right? It always has been Gotham. Good and evil have been at war forever. But we are literally approaching, and sorry to use these mixed metaphors with Hollywood references, but pop culture makes sense. And writers throughout history have gotten this thing, whether it's the guys that created the cartoons for Marvel Comics and DC Comics to create these characters, in the midst of Gotham, for example, in the case of Batman. And, they knew it. And we all want to, we can easily be entertained by watching this and maybe fantasize about what we would do, in the face of evil, especially if we're good people. But the real world doesn't work out like that. Most of us are hardworking people that go to jobs that maybe have spent a lifetime becoming professionals in one form or another, and your entire existence is dedicated to making sure that you do your job, which requires a lot of time to be able to provide for your family. That gives you these opportunities in the system. But this system of neoliberalism and financialization and globalism has chipped away at the American dream and then ultimately turned it into the American nightmare. Tens of millions have already gone through this, and tens of millions will go through it again. I think we're pretty close to another meltdown. I don't know how they've carried it forward, as long as they have, except for I've heard recently that the Fed has what they call a plumbing sort of design, which I don't really know the details of, but it seems like when you have the complicity of billionaires, that, you can kind of keep up the facade. And, once a couple of billionaires or, major asset funds decide to pull the rug on this whole thing, they can create a run and then they can buy it all on the cheap again. Because the only valuation of, for example, our currency is based on the sum total of goods and services. And like I've said millions of times before, the purpose of the Federal Reserve is to maintain full employment and to have a low level of inflation. Inflation is through the roof right now. Inflation is through the roof partially because of what a lot of people blame on Fed policy, but it's really Fed policy has created this ability for the new robber barons and monopolies that have done this, and then they, through monopolization, have created the inflation. They can, and this is exactly what they did, especially with oil, right before the collapse of 2008. I mean, all of the telltale signs are there, and I think we're all just getting punked. And a lot of you really think that, if I played long enough in my crypto or, my NFT or, some sort of strange, investment, pump and dump scheme, you're under this illusion that, you've made a lot of money and you're doing great. You're not. You're set up to freaking get smacked. So you better read the telltale signs. But for the rest of you who want a society to actually function because you understand, because you're old and wise enough and you're mature enough and you're professional enough that you've been through the system, that you know that everything is ebbs and flows and everything is balanced. But if you don't have accountability, then nothing makes sense. Because the powerful, if they can root out accountability, it'll turn into a crime syndicate all day, every day. So that's our system. I am desperately trying to build an army of millions upon millions of people who will refuse to accept corruption as the only option. Because what we've got right now is the new robber barons versus the new Confederacy. I'm liberty and justice for all. I'm on the side of trust busting through the New Deal. And quite frankly, all of this is the clean New Deal. Because if you understood that we've spent at least $50 trillion since 2009 to maintain the corruption, I can assure you that $50 trillion going to A, rein in the corruption, and B, reconfiguring our society where we have accountability, that we can create dynamism, and then we can create democracy again for and of and by the people. That's who Patrick Lovell is. That's what I am. And I don't understand why you're not. I don't understand why you're just sitting there, basically sucking your thumb, sitting on your hands, waiting for somebody to rescue you. Nobody's coming to your rescue. We have to come together, and together we can create a tidal wave to purge the corruption that has destroyed tens of millions and will continue to do so until there's nothing left. That's what I think. I think it's one of those moments, and I'll give you the last, movie metaphor. This is a photon bomb the evil empire through the Death Star moment. Okay, who wants to get into their jet wings? I can't remember what those X-wing fighters. I think that's what it was called in Star Wars, and deliver the death bomb to the photon bomb against the Death Star. Who wants to do that? And again, don't mistake what I'm saying as a violent revolution. If we try to create a violent revolution at this stage of the game, we're going to get destroyed. And that's not the only reason why I don't want to create a violent revolution. The reason I don't want to create a violent revolution is we still have shreds of the ability through shreds of democracy to create shreds of the integrity of law, but to put the right people in play to use the power of the federal government to create the investigation, to find the criminality, to hold the criminals accountable and draw back and claw back their ill-gotten gains, which is theft, and then ultimately put those son of a bitches in jail or on the sidelines, or in a way to make it such that this can't happen anymore. I'm telling you, we have corruption, like I said at the outset, the names that I had mentioned to you, the Supreme Court, the Federal Reserve acting like a banana republic, and we've got nukes, right? We're a banana republic. We are completely lost. I'm offering you clarity. It's called The Con, www.thecon.tv, and hashtag Exodus, hashtag the resurrection, hashtag truth is marching, hashtag failure is not an option, and of course, Patrick Lovell Truth Bombs the Con on YouTube. Look, it's simple, guys. I'm just one of you. I'm a regular dude. I'm not some fucking genius. I'm not some sort of, self-proclaimed messiah. I'm just a dude who understands the way the system's supposed to work, and I went on a massive journey to do what the system didn't do to find out why it didn't make sense. And now it does completely. And I don't want to be living on my own private Idaho to try to be able to, go through the life knowing, well, at least I got the truth. I want tens of millions of you to understand the truth so that we can save ourselves from this disaster. Onwards and upwards.